Marshall sees Mando travel to Tatooine to find other Mandalorians. He travels to Mos Pelgo as there's been sightings of other Mandalorians there. He finds Cobb Vanth, who's wearing Boba Fett's armor, and he tells Mando he can have the armor back if he helps kill the Crate Dragon. Mando agrees and finds some Tusken Raiders who can help them kill the Crate Dragon. They place bombs on Banthas and are planning to set them off inside the Crate Dragon's belly. Mando and Cobb struggle, and as Mando is about to die, he hits Cobb's jetpack and flies in with a Bantha, and he explodes the bombs inside the Crate Dragon's belly. As his arm is Beskar, it doesn't affect him. But the Tusken Raiders got their prize, and the people of the Tangle to their freedom. But Boba Fett was there. He's been scouting out Mando ever since the episode where he picks up Fennec Shand. Chapter 10 of The Mandalorian was an enjoyable episode, though it doesn't progress the main story very much. It brings us to a new planet with lots of spiders and icy conditions. Dave Filoni and Paul Lee played two New Republic X-Wing pilots, whilst Richard Ayoade and Amy Sedaris reprised their roles from previous episodes. This episode has Mando and Baby Yoda travel with the Frog Lady to her homeworld, but it isn't easy as they can't go into hyperspace as the Frog Lady's eggs would die. Mando is stopped by a few X-Wings as he is wanted, and he has his transponder off. So it leads into this amazing chase scene where Mando loses them in the ice planet, but the ice he is on shatters and the Razor Crest falls into the caves. When the Frog Lady runs off to find some warm water, Mando goes to find her, and as they are there, spiders start to attack them, and they run back to the Razor Crest and lock themselves in the cockpit. When all seems lost, the X-Wing pilots come and save them. As payment to Mando for putting away 3 criminals in episode 6, they don't arrest him. This episode ends with them flying off into the stars, leading off to episode 3 of season 2. Okay, let's get into this. There's a lot to cover in this episode. We start where the last episode ended, with them in the Razor Crest, but they're in trouble, as they're gonna crash, and they do. But they're okay, as they make it to the Frog Lady's husband's house, and they hatch their eggs there. Mando follows the shipman, and he's nearly drowned, and Baby Yoda is nearly eaten alive. But in a flash, Bo-Katan, Sabine Wren, and another unnamed Mandalorian save them. The rest of the episode is placed on their ship, where they are trying to find the Darksaber, as Mando doesn't know what happened to it. But we know that Moff Gideon has it from the last season's finale. Bo-Katan also explains why Mandalorians can take off their helmets, and that Mando may be in a cult called the Watch, and it may be an offshoot of Death Watch. Bo-Katan is played by Katie Sackhoff, Sabine Wren is played by Sasha Banks, and the Imperial Officer is played by Titus Welver. And we also have the first mention of Ahsoka in live action. The Siege is the 12th episode and brings back fan favourite characters Cara Dune and Grief Karga, whilst Horatio Sands reprises his role from season 1. This episode takes place on a revitalised environment where Grief Karga runs it with Cara Dune as the marshal. They go to an old Imperial base with Mando, Grief Karga, Cara Dune and the Mithril, and they fight some stormtroopers and set off a reactor and start running and make it into a cloning room with a few guards with Camino patches on. They see a recording and find out why they need Baby Yoda, as he has a high midichlorian count, and Moff Gideon isn't dead, as they didn't know from season 1's ending. And they escape in a chase scene when the Razor Crest comes in clutch and saves them. Mando flies off to find Ahsoka, but Moff Gideon has a legion of clones at his disposal, and he's ready to fight Mando. They've also placed a tracker on Mando's Razor Crest, and are trying to find Baby Yoda. Wow, this episode has a lot to cover and there's a massive amount of news about it. So let's get right into it. We meet an older Ahsoka played by Rosario Dawson cutting down bad guys and meeting a conqueror. Then we cut to Mando and Baby Yoda flying to find Ahsoka. When he is there, he's tasked to kill Ahsoka for a Beskar spear. He decides to go and find Ahsoka and they have a quick fight, then she notices Baby Yoda and they stop. They talk about Baby Yoda a bit, and she says he was a Padawan on Coruscant during the Clone Wars era and was hidden when they lost the war, and his name was Grogu. They first plan to save the town, and Ahsoka, she fights the Conqueror whilst Mando frees the town's prisoners. He shows his skill with a quick draw as he kills the second in command. Ahsoka wins the fight against the Conqueror and blows my mind with the news that Admiral Thrawn is still alive, and this means Ezra is most likely still alive. This could fit in with the story as Ahsoka refused to train Baby Yoda, and Ezra would be willing to come to the call to save Baby Yoda's life. There was also an owl spotted towards the start of the episode, which could be the daughter from Maul's episodes in the Clone Wars. In this episode of The Mandalorian, known as The Tragedy, we see Mando and Grogu fly to a seeing stone, and Slave One flies in after them. They have a small squabble between Boba and Mando, and they team up as they see Imperials flying in. During this time, Grogu is stuck in a force field, and he is seeing stuff. He doesn't look too happy though, so it's probably sad. During this time, a few Imperial ships fly in, and they're made light work of by Boba Fett and Fennec Shan, and he finds his armor there, and he kills off a lot of stormtroopers with it. There's a very different camera style when he's fighting compared to Mando, as all of his fight scenes have a lot of quick cuts and zooms, and the camera is always pointing up at him to show he has power. Moff Gideon arrives in his Star Destroyer and sends in some Dark Troopers to capture Grogu. He is put into shackles, and Moff Gideon shows him his Darksaber. This episode also features a lot of recurring characters, such as Ming-Na Wen as Fennec Shan, Gina Carrera as Cara Dune, Giancarlo Esposito as Moff Gideon, with Temu Morrison coming back from their first episode, and the prequel trilogies as Boba Fett. Kelly O'Brien also plays the comms officer from the Siege episode, and Bill Bell will be returning in the next episode to help Mando spring Baby Yoda. Chapter 15, The Believer, sees the crew go to an Imperial mining facility, and we get a cool shot in Slave 1, where they're rotating inside the hole. They steal a Juggernaut, and Mando removes his armor to put on some ISB Stormtrooper armor. Cara and Fennec stay on a hill, and Boba is ready to fly off when they need. Mando and Mayfeld have an exciting chase scene with them running from pirates and destroying them as they enter an Imperial base with a code cylinder. Mayfeld spots his old commander and makes Mando have to go to scan his face. He spends a long time as Pedro Pascal, and he freezes when Mayfeld saves him by telling the officer that Mando is hard of hearing. They have a drink together, and it's intense as Mayfeld talks about all the things he's done wrong when he was part of the Imperials, and he also mentions Operation Cinder. Then he shoots the officer, unlike what Mando wanted to happen. Then they make a run for it, and Fennec and Cara have some sharp shooting, and they're able to pick apart the stormtroopers and allow Boba to pick them up. They let Mayfeld go as a dead man, as he did help do all the mission, and he also blew up the base. Mando calls out Moff Gideon, and this is the first episode that we don't have Grogu in. Chapter 16, The Rescue, shows Mando and the crew hijack an Imperial ship, and they kidnap Dr. Pershing. They pick up Bo-Katan and Crossbow Reeves, and they use the ship they stole, alongside Slave One, to infiltrate the light cruiser that Moff Gideon owns. They get in the ship and split off into two groups, Crossbow Reeves, Bo-Katan, and Fennec Shan, alongside Cara. Then Mando goes on his own. Mando is too late to get there, and he struggles fighting against a Dark Trooper and uses all his weapons, but he wins with the Beskar spear. Finds Moff Gideon holding a blade over Grogu's head, and he offers Grogu to him, but Mando takes it, but he's tricked by Moff Gideon and fends him off with his Beskar armor, and he fights him with his Beskar spear, but he ends up winning and taking Grogu and Moff Gideon to the bridge. He wins the Darksaber in this fight as well, much to the dismay of Bo-Katan, and she wants to fight him, but they're too late, as suddenly a breach in the doors happens, and Dark Troopers start attacking. They make it up to the bridge doors when an X-Wing appears, and they all stop. A man jumps out of the X-Wing and ignites his green lightsaber, and it's Luke. He cuts down all the Dark Troopers and gets to the door. He takes Grogu from Mando, and Mando takes off his helmet for Grogu. He says goodbye, and it's a very heartfelt moment. Then R2-D2 appears, and they leave. R2, Luke, and Grogu. They will go off to the Jedi Academy. We end the Book of Din Djarin, and we start in the post-credit scene with the Book of Boba, where Fennec and Boba kill Bib Fortuna and take over his syndicate, which he stole from Jabba the Hutt, and the Book of Boba starts here. It will be released in December 2021.